Mr. Kallenbach, I'm the journalist that spoke to you on the phone. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir.
Please, call me Herman.
Well, Herman, being one of Gandhi's closest confidants in South Africa, I was really hoping you could tell me about the great Mahatma's Tolstoy Farm.
Certainly. Gandhi's exploration into the social injustice he experienced here in South Africa led to the historic encounter of him and Leo Tolstoy, and their philosophical exchanges of love and nonviolence led to the birth of the Tolstoy Farm. The success of the Tolstoy Farm cultivated a new civil ideology in the form of satyagraha, which later served and inspired as the foundation for other civil rights movements. But to understand the purpose behind the Tolstoy Farm, you must understand Gandhi's first encounter with social injustice. Sir, we received a complaint that you were here in the first class compartment. Please follow me and I will escort you to the van compartment.
But I have a first class ticket.
If you hadn't noticed, this is a whites-only carriage. Coolies like you are not supposed to be in the whites-only carriage.
There must be a misunderstanding. I was permitted to travel in this compartment in Durban, and I insist on going in it now.
No, you won't. If you don't follow me now, I will have to force you out.
Yes, you may, because I refuse to get out voluntarily.
Gandhi told me a lot about the night of June 7, 1893. He was forcibly evicted off the train to Pietermaritzburg and later spent the night in a freezing waiting room. Well, he carried on his journey to Pretoria to assist Indians in their fight against social injustice.
Gandhi told me a lot about the Indians of South Africa. He told me how they were discriminated against simply because of the color of their skin, and how they weren't allowed to own land, except in those specially allocated locations they called ghettos. Gandhi also told me about a curfew, which forbid Indians to walk outside after 9 p.m. Is all of that true?
Indeed. The lives of Indians in South Africa at the time was a very difficult one. But Gandhi gave a voice to the Indians by establishing the Natal Indian Congress in 1894. And in 1906, when the Transvaal Asiatic Registration Act was enacted, this act required every Asian in South Africa to carry around a registration ticket. As a response, Gandhi developed the idea of satyagraha, or civil resistance.
Speaking of satyagraha, I heard the great Russian philosopher Leo Tolstoy played a big part in Gandhi's satyagraha. Is that true as well?
Certainly. Tolstoy and Gandhi never really met in person. However, the two exchanged letters in 1910 and shared ideologies. No doubt, Tolstoy's words affected Gandhi greatly.
Mr. Tolstoy, there's a letter from South Africa for you.
Oh, a letter from South Africa. Who could it be? Sir, I would like to draw your attention to what has been going on in the Transvaal for nearly 3 years. There is a British Indian population of nearly 13,000, and for several years we have labored under various legal disabilities. The climax was reached 3 years ago with a law which I and many others considered to be degrading and calculated to unman those to whom it was applicable. I and some of my friends are firm believers in the doctrine of non-resistance to evil. I had the privilege of studying your writings also, which kept a deep impression on my mind. British Indians, before whom the position was fully explained, accepted that we should not submit to the legislation, but that we should suffer imprisonment or whatever other penalties the law may impose for its breach. Hoping this will find you in good health, I remain your obedient servant, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Interesting. I must go respond now.
A personal response from Mr. Tolstoy himself. I wonder what he has to say to me. I have just received your letter, which gave me great pleasure. God help our dear brothers and co-workers in the Transvaal. I think the question of passive resistance is the question of the greatest importance, not only for India, but for the whole humanity. As I approach the end of my life, I have realized that the thing of utmost importance is quite simply the law of love. Love represents the highest and only law of life. The history of mankind is crowded with evidences proving that physical coercion is not adapted to moral regeneration, and that the sinful dispositions of men can be subdued only by love, that evil can be exterminated only by good, that it is not safe to rely upon the strength of an arm to preserve us from harm. Yours, Leo Tolstoy.
Tolstoy's letter had a profound impact on Gandhi. It was through the exchanges of these letters that Gandhi perfected and evolved his ideology of satyagraha. Put simply, satyagraha is the force which is made up of force, love, and nonviolence.
Ah, incredible. The merging of two brilliant minds. However, I do have a controversial question for you. Did Gandhi ever notice the plight of the black South Africans? Because there are many out there who believe Gandhi may have in fact been a racist.
Gandhi and the black South Africans. This is a question asked very often. Gandhi once said to me, "My aim is not to be consistent with my previous statements. My aim is to be consistent with the truth, as the truth may present itself at a given moment." Gandhi was well aware of the plight of the black South Africans and deeply sympathized with them. However, he did not fight for the rights of the black South Africans, but tried to set up an example of nonviolent resistance before them. It would be wrong to ignore the evolution of Gandhi's thinking and only quote his earlier statements. Put it simply, Gandhi had not yet developed an adequate understanding of the black South Africans.
So you're telling me Gandhi felt there was an important distinction between the black natives fighting as sons of the soil and Asian migrants wanting minimum rights?
Exactly.
Well, thank you for shedding light to the sensitive topic. Could you tell me a little about life on the farm?
Mr. Gandhi, why do we live such simple lives here? Why don't we fight back against the white people? Look at us. We're strong young men. Why don't our men sit idly in prison?
My child, tell me, what is the name of this farm you live on?
The Tolstoy Farm, sir.
Yes, the Tolstoy Farm, named after a remarkable man. Through his writings and correspondence, I have learned a great deal about love and nonviolence. People fight using guns, swords, and death. Satyagraha, on the other hand, is an absolutely nonviolent weapon. You are fighting. It is just a different form of fighting.
But then why do we live such a simple life?
Come. The reason this ashram was founded was for us Satyagrahis to perfect our Satyagraha and prepare for the prison life. This way, in prison, we will already be accustomed to the plain fare of prison. They will do us many wrongs, and we will suffer many pains. But we will prove the greater force by refusing to wrong them back. That is the Satyagraha way.
I solely understand, sir.
So, Mr. Kallenbach, you're telling me the Tolstoy Farm was essentially a training ground for resistors.
Essentially, the Satyagrahis knew that their campaign would end in imprisonment. The discipline and the respect for labor at the farm prepared them for the prison life. Gandhi's encounters with social injustice and the exchanges with Leo Tolstoy led to the birth of the farm, where an evolved and perfected Satyagraha emerged and was ready to begin its work in India.
King Household, 1967.
Ah, my son. Just in time for dinner. How was school today?
School is great, Dad. Speaking of school, the teacher told me to ask you, who influenced your life most and how that had an impact upon you?
Well, my father, Martin Luther King Sr., had a profound impact on my life. But another man, Mahatma Gandhi, he influenced me greatly. When I first heard Dr. Mordecai Johnson speak of Gandhi in Philadelphia, his message was so profound and electrifying that I left immediately and bought half a dozen books on Gandhi's life and works. As I read, I became deeply fascinated by his ideas of love and nonviolence, and I saw, for the first time, its potency in the area of social reform.
So, what you're saying is that Gandhi transformed you to act upon your actions like the Montgomery bus boycotts, the peaceful protests in Birmingham, and the march to Washington.
Exactly, son. I have a dream that one day this nation will live up to the true meaning of its creed, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood.
Dad, in order for these dreams to become reality, in order for us to create a society without prejudice and inequality, we must not forget Satyagraha. Okay, Dad, I think I get it.
Who is it?
Mr. King, I've heard about your civil rights movements and your interest in Gandhi. I would like to speak with you if that's possible.
Absolutely. What is your name, sir?
My name is Mandela.
Nelson Mandela.